How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball and welcome back to Review the Prem, which is obviously the review show from Predict the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. As you can see on screen right now, the scores are 33 to Simeon, 25 to myself. And the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you cannot pick them again for the rest of the season. And it's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's get into the weekend's action, starting off at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea beat Luton 3-0. Sim went 2-0, I went 3-0. So starting off the week, as we meant to go on with a big fat 5-pointer, Sim gets 1 point on this one. And look, I thought Chelsea were well worth their 3 points. Raheem Sterling carrying on his really good start to the season with 2 goals, 1 assist. Absolutely sensational goal. The first one, a great individual effort. Malagusto picking up 2 assists on the day as well. I mean, I think Luton are going to be the whipping boys of the league, judging on that performance, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought they severely lacked quality, Luton, because they actually had periods of the game where they were had the ball a lot and they actually were asking different questions of Chelsea, but they just didn't have the quality to create any sort of opening on that back line. I thought Chelsea, for a lot of the game, were pretty lackluster, in all honesty. They had obviously a good moment from Sterling early on, which gave them the 1-0 lead. But I thought for a lot of the game, it was that game was drifting at 1-0, and Luton stayed in the game for a long time. And I thought Chelsea were pretty stale for a lot of that game. But they got the second goal through Raheem Sterling, and once that second goal came, I think it gave them a bit more confidence. Then they started to create a few more chances, and obviously they got that third one through Nick Jackson as well. But look, it was a good win for Chelsea, and obviously first win for Poch, and he needed that, but I just wasn't that thoroughly impressed with them despite the 3-0 victory.
Yeah, you're looking at the stats, it does seem like a very dominant display, to be honest. 2.27 XG for Chelsea to Luton 0.44. Possession 67% to Chelsea, and 19 shots, 8 on target, where Luton had 11 shots, only 1 shot on target the whole game. So I did think it was a very deserved victory for Chelsea.
Didn't say it wasn't. I'm just saying I wasn't that impressed with them, even though they won.
Let's move on to Bournemouth against Tottenham. Finished 2-0 to Tottenham at the Vitality. Both of us going for 2-1 to Tottenham. And look, this was a really good performance from Spurs, in my opinion. First half, I thought Spurs were very much the dominant side. Could have gone on to the lead with more than just the 1-goal lead. And then it got a bit sticky for Tottenham the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half. But Ange made the changes. And then Spurs kind of regained capture of that game. Got the goal quite quickly after the changes. And I thought we ran out deserved victors.
Yeah, I think this was a very dominant display. I think there was some lovely football being played from Spurs, and the 2 goals was evidence of that. Really good team moves, which were finished off by Maddison and Kulusevski, respectively. I thought Bournemouth threatened very rarely. Yes, they had some periods of the game where they had some of the ball, but they weren't really able to create any chances. I think Tottenham defended very well. I actually think Bournemouth weren't bad on the day. I thought they tried their best. They had some really good approach play, but I thought just Tottenham had a bit too much for them, and I think going forward we had that cutting edge where they just didn't really have that. And so another impressive display for me from Spurs.
Yeah, the impressive thing for me as well was the back line. I think Van der Ven, Romero, Udogie and Porro all had really strong games, and when Bournemouth were on top, they still couldn't really break us down. So credit to Spurs and credit to the back line. 1 point each for us on this one. But let's move on to Arsenal against Fulham, which finished 2-2 at the Emirates. Sim went 4-1 to Arsenal. I went 2-0 to Arsenal. And you know what? On the balance of play, Arsenal probably should have won this game when you're looking at the amount of shots they had, the amount of dominance they had in the game. But Fulham go 1-0 up early. They get a man sent off, I think, just after Arsenal go 2-1 ahead in the latter stages of the game. Then Fulham plugged away and they got that goal. Palhinha gets a goal, and they could have won it at the end with Adama Traore bearing down on goal, beating that trap. And Arsenal got to be very disappointed with this result.
Yeah, when you're winning and you're playing against 10 men, there's no excuses to not go on and win that game. And they've got to be very, very frustrated that they've dropped points at home to a Fulham side. Yes, they're not a bad team, Fulham, but you can't be giving up points when you're playing against 10 men. But on the balance of play, look, they had 3.2 xG overall compared to Fulham's 0.5. So it's just I think Arsenal, when you maybe take a step back and look at it objectively, you'll probably just say it's one of those days where 9 out of 10 times you win that game, and this was that one out that other time where it just happened to not fall in your favour. But there definitely is a trend at the moment with Arsenal at home giving away early goals. It's it's something really weird. And not only are they giving away early goals, but they seem to be from really bad mistakes. I remember Ramsdale passing it straight to Alcaraz against Southampton for that goal. I remember Bournemouth scoring in the first minute last season as well. And a similar thing happened here. A bad mistake from Saka. Pereira takes a shot. Ramsdale's in no man's land. All of a sudden they're 1-0 down within a minute. So I don't know what is going on. And then there also are a few things which don't look right at the moment at Arsenal. There's the whole Havertz situation, which just hasn't clicked after the first 3 games so far. And also I don't know what is going on with Gabriel and his insistence in not playing him at the moment. And he decides to play Kiwior at left back and Partey at right back. So there are a few situations where are a bit strange. I did think he sorted out in the second half, to be fair, and they created a bucket load of chances, and they were well worth the 2-1 turnaround when they did make it happen. But there are just a few funny situations at the moment for Arsenal and Arteta, which he's still working through, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've watched the majority. I didn't watch this game in its entirety. I was on my way back from Bournemouth, but I have watched the other Arsenal games, the full 90 minutes. And I don't know, they just don't seem to have that vibe about them that they had last season, that air of kind of, we're going to go out and win every game. I know they've had good results so far, and this would have made it 100% if they did win the game. But they look like they're having a lot of possession at the moment. They're controlling games, but without really hurting the opposition. And that's not really what you associated Arsenal with last season. I think Martinelli has had a pretty slow start to the season, to be honest. Nketiah's been all right, Saka's been all right, but they just don't seem to have that killer instinct that they had last season.
They don't look as bright and fresh and energetic. I think that's the word I would use. They're just looking like they're much more patient team than maybe last season. They were kind of full guns blazing, no pun, and they were just going in full flight. Just a quick mention though, Fabio Vieira, I thought he came on and was pretty exceptional, to be fair, in that second half. So if they can get him playing like that regularly, maybe they were going to have another threat there.
Yeah, it was unbelievable assist for the goal from Vieira, wasn't it? But let's move on to Brentford against Crystal Palace, which finished 1-1 on the day. Sim went for 1-1. He gets a 5-pointer. I went 2-1 to Brentford, but it did finish 1-1. So I think Brentford took the lead in the first half, and you're thinking, Brentford going to go on to another win this season? But Joachim Andersen scored a really weird goal towards the end of that game, going through the keeper's legs. But I thought that Brentford first goal from Sade was brilliant.
Yeah, what a goal that was. First goal for Brentford. I actually quite like Sade. He's been quite bright ever since he signed for Brentford. He actually signed for fairly big money, like 20 million or so. Hasn't scored, but he's always looked quite decent on the ball and creates chances for himself. But that showed of what quality he has, and obviously they're going to need that while Ivan Toney's out, they're going to need that bit of quality in the forward line. I just felt like Brentford at 1-0, they're very used to being in that kind of situation. That's the situation they like to be in the lead, and then they force the opposition out so they can counter-attack. But I feel like they gave Palace just a bit too much respect, and I felt like they gave them too much encouragement in that second half, and they allowed Palace to dominate. They allowed them to have too much of the ball without any threat going back the other way. And in the end, the pressure told. They got it was a lucky equaliser, pretty much, to be fair. Flecken will be disappointed, although I thought he had a good game apart from that one moment. But Palace were well worth the point in the end, and Brentford will be a bit frustrated that I think they just allowed that situation to fester too much without intervening, and it cost them a couple of points.
Yeah, for the first game this season, no goals for either Wissa or Mbeumo as well, and you kind of get the feeling like if they don't score, they don't really win the game, and that was the case yet on the weekend. But let's move on to Everton against Wolves. Finished 1-0 to Wolves on the day. Sim went 0-0. He was very close to it, and I went to 1-0 Everton, and I thought I was fairly close to that as well, because I thought Everton were the better team in this game. I thought Arnaut Danjuma missed a few kind of presentable chances where he could have put Everton in the lead, and I thought Everton were fairly dominant throughout the game and definitely should have won it, and they got sucker punched towards the end by Wolves.
I thought it was a carbon copy of their game against Fulham on the opening day. Lots of chances. Tarkowski this time missing an open goal. Danjuma hitting the post when through on goal. That Decore had an absolute gilt edge opportunity, which he just didn't get the right contact on the header, and it allowed Jose Sarr to make a fantastic save. And so Everton yet again will be kicking themselves that they didn't take their chances when they came. But just like the Fulham game, once they missed their chances late in the game, Fulham just sensed an opportunity to maybe take control of the game, and that's what they did late in the game. They did in those moments in the second half start to create a few chances, and Kalajdzic ends up coming on and getting his first goal. And I'm very happy for him because he signed for Wolves last season after scoring lots of goals in the Bundesliga, and then hadn't even played a game for Wolves, and was ruled out for the whole season with a really serious injury. So really glad for him to come back in his, I think, first game and get a goal straight away. So very happy for him. A great win for all Wolves as well, which is probably in a weird way their weakest performance of the season, yet this is the one they probably get the result in. But Everton will be probably scratching their head as to how they have no points after 3 games and no goals as well with the chances they've created.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. But in terms of Sasa Kalajdzic, it's a great story, to be honest. Well, not a great because he was out for so long, but great that he's come back after so long and got a winner for Wolves in a 1-0 victory in a very tight game. And he did come on against Manchester United when they had that really good performance first game of the season for them. And I thought he looked dangerous then with all the balls coming in. And, you know, he's a big presence in that middle, in that box. And I think with the football Wolves are playing, you know, they need a goal scorer, and he might be the answer to it.
Yeah, sure.
Next up is Manchester United against Nottingham Forest. 3-2 to Manchester United on the day. Sim went for 1-0. I went for 1-0. But Man United made hard work of this. They went 2-0 down very early doors, and then they kind of they just turned it around. So you got to give them credit for turning it around. But how are they going 2-0 down after 4 minutes to Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't even think it's because Forest did anything that special in that first few minutes. It wasn't like they were amazing. I think they just capitalised on some really bad defending from Man United. A few lucky moments. Awioni pouncing on a mistake from Rashford, running through on goal and putting it past Onana, who dived very quickly. I don't know what Rashford,
that was so weird from Onana.
Yeah, it was weird from Rashford as well, how he couldn't keep up with Awioni, considering how fast Rashford you think he is, and he just couldn't keep up with Awioni for that first goal. And the second goal, the free kick comes in, it just hits Bolly on the head. He doesn't even know what's happening. I think it hits him on the face and bounces in, and all of a sudden you're 2-0 down after 4 minutes, and you haven't even done anything that wrong. It's just a bit of luck has gone against you, and I think that's what happened in that game. But look, credit to Man United, they didn't let it affect them. They kept plugging away, and they kept stuck to their game plan, and they got the goal back before half time, very crucial through Christian Eriksen. Made it 2-2 in that second half. I can't remember who got the
Casemiro.
Yeah, Casemiro, I was right, with a clever free kick routine, wasn't it? Through Rashford and Bruno. And then the red card happened. Joe Worrell gets himself sent off for dragging down Bruno on the edge of the box. Some say it was harsh. It's one of those where only Worrell will know if he was tripped, which led to him taking Bruno down, or if Bruno was the one who actually brought him down and Worrell got kind of penalised for it. But referee made the decision. And it cost them dearly, I think, at the end of the day. Once that extra man was off the pitch, it was very difficult for them to hold out. And obviously the penalty, although on first view it looked like it was a dive from Rashford, but I think there was a clash of thighs, I think, at the end of the day, which forced Rashford
was a
down.
penalty.
I think it was just, it was a penalty, slotted away. But what I would say is, with 10 men for those last 10 minutes, it was not comfortable for Man United at all.
That was probably like Nottingham Forest's best period of the game.
Yeah.
Like Manchester United, they were pumping them the whole game after the 2 goals went in after the 5 minutes. And funnily enough, Nottingham Forest's best moment in the game was at that period when they had 10 men. It was strange, wasn't it?
It was really weird. You would have thought United, playing against 10 men and winning, they can take control of the game and just pick off Nottingham Forest, who have to commit players now with one less man as well. So there surely would be spaces going forward. And they just weren't able to capitalise, and they nearly equalised in the end. I think Onana had to make a couple of saves. And United will probably look at that period thinking why they allowed Forest so much control in the latter stages.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a weird trend going on this season with teams that have got men sent off. I know Nottingham Forest didn't turn it around, but they had their best moment in the game. Arsenal drew 2-2 to a 10-man Fulham. Last week, they beat Crystal Palace with 10 men. Liverpool 2 weeks in a row have won with 10 men as well.
West Ham beat Chelsea with 10 men.
Exactly. I mean, what is going on?
I don't know. It's a very weird situation at the moment where the teams with 10 men are putting up a fight and getting results.
Yeah, it's crazy. But let's move on to Brighton against West Ham. Sim went 2-2. I went 3-1 to Brighton. But West Ham did win this game by 3 goals to 1. I mean, you got to say that this was a lucky victory, in my opinion, for West Ham. I think so. I thought Brighton definitely, with the possession that they had, yes, they weren't really breaking down West Ham too much. And I think West Ham probably went forward like 3 or 4 times and got 3 goals. It was just a counter-attacking brilliance from West Ham, to be honest. But I think Brighton, looking at the balance of play, will be so disappointed that they didn't take more out of this game.
Of course, they will, because they had opportunities. But I thought West Ham were well worth the victory. I think they deserved it. I think it was a really good. I think it was literally, if Moyes could have planned out the game in his head how it would have gone, it probably would have gone something like this. And it was like the perfect game plan from West Ham, and they exploited Brighton's biggest weakness, which is their backline. And I have to say, Antonio absolutely bullied Dunk and Webster at the back. They couldn't get near him, and he gave them so much trouble. He was running the channels, and it was like a proper target man Antonio display for West Ham. And I thought that Brighton really struggled to contain them, to be honest. And yes, look, the game plan was always going to be for West Ham to counter-attack against this Brighton team. They know they like to keep possession. But look, we know Brighton as well have this kind of performance in them, because I remember last season they lost 4-1 at home to Everton in a very similar kind of game. And I think Brighton, they're a very pretty football team, but I think, well, what's going to let them down is I don't think they have that the quality at the backline, and especially the physicality in the backline to stop teams doing this, like West Ham, who are very strong defensively and have that killer instinct at the back. And going forward, and that goal from Bowen was absolutely astonishing.
Great goal.
I think even though we saw some good goals this weekend, I think that might have been goal of the weekend. What a touch, and the pass from Benrahma, the touch from Bowen, and the finish into the far corner was absolutely astounding.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think West Ham can obviously walk off this game with his head held high, 3-1 win away at the Amex. But I just feel like you play this game out 9 times out of 10, I think Brighton win it. With the possession that they had, I think their forwards had a bit of an off day. And I don't know, West Ham, they had 22% possession the whole game. It's just crazy.
1.48
yeah, I know.
Brighton, 3.
I know, but I think that's due to just Brighton's forwards having an off day, and I don't think that happens very often.
No, the XG is about where the chances are, not the chances.
Yeah, but an off day in terms of getting the balls into the right areas is
right,
that.
So I think you play this game 9 times out of 10. I think West Ham get the result, in my opinion.
I don't agree.
I think so. I don't think Brighton were that impressive. They play again. There was a lot of bark with no bite, a lot of pretty fit football without any real penetration and any clinical edge. To be fair to them, though, I would say at 3-0, Areola did make some very good saves to kind of keep them at bay before Pascal Gross got the consolation. But I thought West Ham deserved it, and I think Brighton, look, they're a very good team, but I think it's performances like this that will stop them really challenging the top 4.
Yeah, and I think both of these teams are going to suffer a lot when European football comes around again. But look, Brighton have been very impressive this season so far, and I thought this was more or less an off day for them. And I think, like, if this game is played next weekend, I think Brighton will be back at it, and West Ham would struggle to keep them out, to be honest. But let's move on. Burnley against Aston Villa. 3-1 to Villa on the day. Sim went 2-1. I went 2-0. But it did finish 3-1 to Aston Villa. And after a thrashing on the first day of the season from Newcastle, Villa have really dusted themselves off, picked themselves up, got 2 wins on the bounce now. And you know what? Burnley came back into it towards the end of the game and could have got themselves at least within 1 goal of Villa, but Villa's quality shone through, really.
Yeah, and I thought this game pretty much played out how I expected. Burnley, with their more progressive kind of style, was going to be outdone by the quality of Aston Villa on the counter-attack and the fact that Unai Emery can set a team very solidly. But now with Moussa Diaby added into that attack, they're going to be so much more of a danger going forward as well. Watkins is as well getting a brilliant assist for Cash's first goal, and then Diaby with a great assist for Cash's second goal. And as I expected, United at 2-0, they kind of settled down Aston Villa a bit and kind of tried to manage the game. And when you do that, you are at risk of allowing a team like Brentford, who are good on the ball, to get back in their game. And they did do that for a nice finish through Foster. But I think at the end of the day, the quality told, and a brilliant finish from Diaby to make it 3-1, and a classic Unai Emery performance, I felt.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheffield United, Manchester City finished 2-1 to Man City on the day. Both of us going for 3-0 to City. And it probably should have been close to that, to be honest. It was full domination for City for the majority of the game. I felt Sheffield United were defending like absolute warriors in that first half, with a low block, really trying to stifle Man City. And they did that. They got the penalty, Man City. Erling Haaland hits the post. Then Man City go 1-0 up, and you're thinking, oh, the floodgate's going to open now. But astonishingly, Sheffield United get that late equaliser, but Man City go up the other end and score straight away.
Yeah, kind of like they can score whenever they want, whenever they need to, and they kind of did that, Man City. And look, you got to give Sheffield United credit because they really did hang in there, but it had more of the feel of a lower league cup tie than it did a Premier League game. In all honesty, it felt like Sheffield United were not on the same level at all as Man City. Didn't seem like they were in the same league as Man City, but look, they are a Premier League team. But I think that is 3 defeats on the trot now for Sheffield United. But you give them credit for how they defended first half. Second half, though, they did concede, and then. To be fair, like the game nearly went perfectly for them when they equalised. That was probably the game plan. Just try and keep it to a goal up until the last 10 minutes and give it a bit of a go. See if you can get a goal and see if you can nick a point. And it nearly worked, but Man City's quality was just too good, and a brilliant finish from Rodri, who is becoming one of the most clutch players in the Premier League at the moment with some of the big goals he's scoring. And really great finish on his left foot. I think he's getting even more license at the moment from Pep to move forward and get into attacking positions, and he's showing that he's got the quality to make more of an impact in those situations as well. Brilliant finish. And Man City, look, you can't say they didn't deserve the victory despite the little troubles they had in the last 10 minutes. Yeah,
and back on Rodri, I mean, any big moment for Man City, he's there to step up. Every single one. What a player he is. And you don't associate him with the goals, but he's always popping up with those important goals for them.
Some people are saying Ballon d'Or shouts.
Ballon d'Or? He got the treble, Champions League, scored the winner,
in the final.
Yeah, I mean,
why not?
Did he score in the FA Cup final as well?
No, it's Gundogan got 2.
Oh, Gundogan.
But he's literally, I can't remember a bad game he had last season. Literally, he's so consistent. He plays every game.
Yeah.
And he never drops below like a 7 out of 10 ever.
You know Messi's going to win the Ballon d'Or anyway.
So yes.
But let's move on to the last game of the weekend. Newcastle against Liverpool finished 2-1 to Liverpool. We both went for 2-2, but this was a great game of football. It really was. It toed and froed. But so many major refereeing decisions in this game as well. First and foremost, Trent Alexander-Arnold picks up an early yellow card, does 2 fouls after that and nothing. But then Van Dijk gets sent off. My personal opinion, I thought it was definitely a red card. He takes out the man and removes a clear goal scoring opportunity for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think on second viewing, I think probably the right decision has come to. When I first looked at it, I thought it was a genuine attempt from Van Dijk to play the ball, but apparently the rule is even if it's a genuine attempt, if it's outside the box and it denies a goal scoring opportunity, then it's a red card. Apparently Van Dijk would have done that inside the box, then it's only a yellow. So that's quite interesting. I feel I didn't realise the difference in the rule there. So they have come to the right decision if you go by the book. It'll be a bit frustrating with Van Dijk because I think he was a genuine attempt to get the ball, but he does end up tripping Isaac fairly cynically before that. And look, it was a red card, and then 1-0 down before that as well after a horrific mistake from Trent Alexander-Arnold. And it looked
Trent had the first half from hell in this game.
Yeah, it was horrific. Gordon was completely tearing him to shreds. And
I don't understand how he didn't get sent off.
Yeah, he was a very lucky boy. It's a definite yellow card. That second yellow was 100% yellow. So he's counting it. Although I did feel like he was a bit unlucky with the first one. I did, because I felt like he got fouled, and then I think he either frustration or he was throwing the ball because he thought that he was getting the free kick, and the referee thinks he's throwing the ball away to waste time and ends up booking him. So I thought he got a bit unlucky with that. But the second one, 100% was a yellow. So he was so lucky with that situation. But look,
and the third one, there was a third one as well, which he should have gone booked for as well.
No, the third one was with the goal. He was lucky because if Gordon goes down, he's 100% red, but thankfully for him, he holds onto the shirt, but he lets go in time and just allows Gordon to go through, and he ends up scoring. So he's lucky that that situation didn't get worse for him. But to be fair to Liverpool, at 1-0 down and down to 10 men, you think the game's over, especially against a good team like Newcastle. And then Alisson makes a brilliant save from Almiron, tips a shot onto the post, and then the chances kind of dried up for Newcastle a bit, even against 10 men. I thought Liverpool put in a performance you don't associate with them, just really strong defensively, battening down the hatches, making sure that Newcastle weren't creating too many really good goal-scoring opportunities. And I remember at like 75 minutes, we were watching the game, I was like, you know what, you got to give Liverpool a lot of credit, because they've been down to 10 men for the majority of this game. It's still only 1-0. They're still in the game if they get a bit of luck, and you've got to give them a lot of credit because they've done a very good job to limit this game. And then they ended up getting that bit of luck. Botman makes a mistake, goes full through to Darwin Núñez with an absolutely clinical finish. And I remember even saying at that point, I reckon Liverpool could go on and win this game now, because I reckon one ball through to Núñez and he's going to be 1-on-1 with his defender, and I back him to win that race. And that's exactly what happened. He got played through by Salah, and bam, 2-1 win. And you got to say, what an incredible win for Liverpool.
Yeah, and I think second half, they were brilliant the whole second half. They really were, Liverpool. And have you ever seen a better cameo this season than Darwin Núñez in this game? Came on in the 77th minute, scored on the 81st minute, scored on the 93rd minute, and Liverpool take home an amazing 3 points at St James's Park.
Yeah, must be one of the wins of the season, I think, in the Premier League, to win it with 10 men against Newcastle. Were no marks. They're a very good team, clearly. We know that. And to do that, I think that shows what Liverpool are about this season, and I think they're in for a very good season, in my opinion. And I think having someone like Darwin Núñez as well, his physicality is the perfect kind of player you want when you're down to 10 men. He can almost do like running for two players almost with his pace and his power. And he made the difference, and maybe he's set to explode now.
Yeah, I said last season, like, I can see him doing all the right runs, making the right movements. Just his finishing was letting him down last season. But now, I mean, he scored 2 goals in a few minutes.
Yeah, but those are 2 of the most clinical finishes you'll ever like.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Unbelievable finishes, like side netting, both of them. Very little time to think about it. And those exactly were the type of chances he was snatching at last season and not even getting them on target. Yeah. And now all of a sudden he's hitting the side netting. So if he's going to be doing that, man, I think he could absolutely explode.
Yeah. And let's move on to the star men. Sim went for Julian Alvarez, who got 0 goals and 0 assists against Sheffield United. And I went for Raheem Sterling, 2 goals and 1 assist. A monstrous haul for the star men this week. 12 points, 5 points for each goal and 2 points for the assist. I'll take that all day of the week.
And Alvarez could have bloody had 12 points if he had his shooting boots on, but for some reason didn't fall for him this game. But look, Sterling against home to Luton, he was well worth those 12 points, to be fair. He was brilliant.
Yeah. And I think Sterling has been hands down Chelsea's best player this season. Poch has seemed to really reinvigorated him. He seems faster than ever. He's the best I've seen him for quite a number of years now.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we finish off this week on 46 to myself, 43. So I've overturned the deficit this week. We'll see what happens next time, as Thursday we'll be bringing you Predict the Prem. But thank you everyone for watching today, and we'll see you next time.